Krishna dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, excuse me for my voice today. I have a little sore throat. Today, we are going to continue the series of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 10th chapter, verses 11 and 12. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining and giving your valuable time and association, Guru Maharaj. I'll just share my screen. You can please start the class, Guru Maharaj.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter is titled Chapter 10 of the first canon. Lord Krishna, something Lord Krishna, I forgot what it was. What's the name of the chapter again?
Lord Krishna leaves the Dwaraka, Guru Maharaj.
Oh, okay, Lord Krishna leaves Dwaraka. Okay. Okay. Satsangam mukta sunduk sangohu hatam no sadhate buddha kirtyamanam yaso yasya sakrita karna rochanam asmid yasna diyam partha Sariran viraham katam darshanam sparsasam lapa sanyana sana bhojanai. Translation: the intelligents who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees, have been free from bad material association, can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they've heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? They had been intimately associated with his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. The Prabhupada's purport. The living being's constitutional position is one of serving a superior. He is obliged to serve by force the dictates of the illusionary material energy in different places of sense gratification. In serving the senses, he is never tired. Even though he may be tired, the illusionary energy perpetually forces him to do so without being satisfied. There is no end to such sense gratificatory business. The conditioned soul becomes entangled in such servitude without hope of release. The release is only effected by association with pure devotees. By such association, one is gradually promoted to his transcendental consciousness. Thus he can know that his eternal position is to render service unto the Lord, and not to the perverted senses and the capacity of lust, anger, and desire to lord it over. Material, society, friendship, and love are all different phases of lust. Home, country, family, society, wealth, and all sorts of corollaries are all causes of bondage in the material world, where the threefold miseries of life are concomitant factors. By association with pure devotees and by hearing them submissively, attachment for material enjoyment becomes slackened. The attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent. Once they will go on progressively without stoppage, like fire in gunpowder. It is said that Hari, the personality of Godhead, is so transcendently attracted, even those who are self-realized by self-realization and are factually liberated from all material bondage, also become devotees of the Lord. Under the circumstances, it is easily understood what must have been the position of the Pandavas were constant companions of the Lord. They could not even think of separation from Sri Krishna, since the attraction was more intense for them because of continuous personal contact. His remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc., is also attractive for the pure devotee. So much so that he forgets all forms, qualities, names, fames, and activities of the mundane world. And due to his material association, his mature association with pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Maum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pasyat Yade Satarine Vanchakalpa Taruvescha Vipa Sindhupe Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before I begin, I just need to take a 30-second break. I will be right back. There's one thing that I need to attend to, and I'll be back very, very quickly. Sorry for that. I had to take care of closing the house up before it gets too cold here. We're in the middle of the evening here. Okay, so this is a very important verse. This verse gives a very poignant message that the living entity entanglement in the material world centers around the objects of the senses, which give them unlimited activity, centered around family, country, body, occupation, material responsibilities, various types of duties that are unavoidable. And the living entity is constantly engaged in such activities. And one is never relieved of such activities. One never becomes tired, as Prabhupada said, in serving the senses. Although the senses, senses are considered to be either servants or serpents. Servant or serpent. A servant is one who assists, who helps, who is a friend. A serpent is one who bites and causes pain and death. And when the senses are engaged in material activities, the objects of the senses centered around various types of personalities and duties in this material world, they force the living entity to work hard in order to do this. And one gets what is called some satisfaction. Otherwise, how could they continue to do it? What is that satisfaction? We work so hard to support a family, to build a family, to find an occupation which will allow us to fulfill our desires in so many different ways. So we compromise we say, our freedom and use our energy to associate with people who really don't have anything to do with us, such as the society in general, people in general, our employer, or others, even relatives. We find many times the relatives cause the most destructive feelings upon a person. They struggle so hard in relationships to people that they have been put together with simply by their karmic arrangement. And they accept this as some kind of form of happiness. And they call it what we say duties or responsibilities in life. Well, what is the happiness? Vyapati, one contemporary poet of Lord Chaitanya, says that, of course, the Shastras say in the material world, there is no happiness. But if there was no happiness at all, then how could living entities continue in that way, life after life? Of course, they're struggling to find that happiness, but sometimes there is a little bit of relief from the struggle, and one gets a little satisfaction. And so Vyapati says that it comes in the form of family life. He says, and he makes a point that in the desert, a person is struggling to find water. They're wandering in this desert for a long time, and they're feeling very, very thirsty. So in that strong desire to see to experience water, the mind projects an illusion upon the environment where one sees an oasis and a nice pool of very cooling, refreshing, clear water. And then they go for it, but what do they get? Just some more dry sand. It's simply a projection of their own mind based on the desire to relieve the suffering. So in the material world, there is a little bit of happiness, and Vyapati says it is centered around family life. But he calls it a drop of water in the desert. But no one can be fully satisfied with one drop. Therefore, one is looking for that oasis. And then here it's explained that those same activities that one performs in the material world are simply reflections of our relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. To associate with, to interact with, to experience happiness with, knowledge with, and fulfillment with Krishna is the living entity's, what we say, hidden desire. That desire, it's like having a treasure and not knowing where it is. Someone has left you some inheritance, but they don't tell you where the inheritance is or where to find it. But you receive confirmation that there is a large amount of inheritance for you. So you were thinking, where can I find it? Who do I ask? So therefore, in order to fulfill that need or that desire, one will try in different ways to uncover that. And therefore, these activities in the material world are simply reflections of our activities with Krishna, which are the fulfillment of the soul's happiness eternally. Therefore, the Shastra says, Satam pasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata. That this rasayana means sweet nectar, kata is the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the activities that glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. And those who engage in such activities, they on the path going back home, back to Godhead. Their bhakti has begun in a very powerful way. And if it continues in that way, it would reach maturity. But it's not like in the material world, or even in various other forms of spirituality, where the results of one's endeavors to achieve satisfaction and happiness come by completion of the activity. Bhakti can give immediate satisfaction to the heart and increase that happiness and satisfaction unlimitedly. Even for someone who is brand new in Krishna consciousness, they can also taste that unlimited happiness, provided they follow the process. So here it says that even persons who have done it only once, who have heard the glories of the Lord even once, can never again forget the nectar that was involved in that, and then they're always looking for it. It's like a man who meets a person for the first time, and then they have a wonderful experience in that relationship with that person, and then that person leaves their life, and there's no longer any contact nor any way to acquiesce that contact again. But the experience is so sweet that they continue to endeavor in that way to bring that about again. But in Krishna consciousness, it is easily available to hear, to chant, to remember the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material life, as we mentioned, does have some form of happiness. Sometimes there's another analogy used that a man is walking across a large field and there's a covered well, and they step on the cover and they fall into this well and they're falling down. While they're falling down, they're trying to grab onto something, so they grab onto a branch and they hold onto the branch. Now they're hanging in this well and they look below and they see there's a big, gigantic snake at the bottom of the well. When they look up, they see there is a tiger standing on the very top where he fell into, looking down into the well at the person who's hanging there. Now the man is hanging, he can't go up, he can't go down. But then there is a beehive inside of the well above his head, and there are drops of honey coming from the beehive falling into the well, right in the same place where the man is hanging. Now he's thinking, oh, wow, there is it's very sweet here. This honey is coming and it's so nice. And so he's sticking his tongue out trying to reach the honey. But he can't go up because the tiger is there. He can't go down because the snake is there. And he's holding on to branches. And there's 2 rats also in the well who are chewing on the branches that he's holding on. These rats represent day and night. So day and night is gradually, as it says, that with the rising and the setting of the sun, another day is lost and one is closer to death. So as time goes on and days become nights and nights turn back into days, the duration of one's life is becoming less. And one is still, although death is above and below, and it's just a matter of time, still that honey is dripping there, and the person is thinking, oh, it's not so bad. This is material life, a little bit of so-called honey that comes sometimes from what we say family, society, and love. But the verse goes on that with the rising and setting in the sun and another day is lost, one becomes closer to death. And the remaining of the verse says, except for those who engage in hearing the glories of the all-good personality of Godhead. In other words, those who engage in pure devotional service, centered around hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, they do not experience death. They conquer over death. Why? They become immortal. Prabhupada was talking today, I was listening. And the devotees were describing how the material society has provided so many benefits for the upliftment of the living entity. In other words, some relief from some kind of suffering has been offered to society by various types of plan makers, scientists, and other so-called leaders in society. But Prabhupada said this is all temporary, and the force of time will take all of that away. What about your death? Of course, they cannot answer that question. Therefore, it says for a materialist, in order to become happy or to think that one can become happy in the material one has to forget about death. Because if death hangs over the materialists, their anxiety increases and they cannot really become enthusiastic for their materialistic life. But for a devotee, they know that this is the last time I have to die. And this last death is not a death, actually, it is the entrance into eternal life, where the soul will no longer have to undergo the repetition of birth and death. Samsara davana lita loka. This samsara is like a blazing fire. Davana means fire is fire. A life after life. Maya Navase, Kancho Bese, Kancho Ham Bubu Dubai. But the living entity forgets. Jeev Krishna Das, E Vishwas, Kolida and Dukanai, that the living entity does not die, nor does it take birth, but because it's been encased in a material body, it has to undergo this illusionary cycle of birth and death, which has nothing to do with its existence. If we never die, and if we are never born, that means we are eternal. We are on the same level as Krishna. But because of this conception of this material body and the world of temporality, and the desire to enjoy in this world, we escape from reality into this illusion in order to somehow immediately fulfill some desire to become happy. And therefore, the struggle for material life goes on, life after life after life. Kardanam guna sango syo sarasa joni janmashu. So when the living entity takes the devotional service, they begin their path back home, back to Godhead of eternal life with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But here it centers around the essence, which brings about a quick voyage to the perfectional stage, hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, which are nectar in the beginning, nectar in the middle, nectar in the end. Material life sometimes is nectar in the beginning, struggle in the middle, ends in suffering in the end. But the glories of the Lord are on the transcendental platform, and they charm the heart and mind, and they awaken one's attraction for the Lord, which develops into complete attachment, and one wants to hear more and more the glories of the Lord. One can never tire in that process. Go down the page a little bit in the purport. I just want to see what other statements are there. Yeah. So here, so it says that, yeah, Prabhupada uses a very interesting analogy. It's like gunpowder. By associating with pure devotees and by hearing them submissively, attachment to material enjoyment becomes slackened. So the process is simultaneously. As we move forward in our spiritual life, the grip of material desire starts to become less and less, and eventually it will go on, and then it'll stop. But in the association of pure devotees, Satam, what is that verse? Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sastri Hoy, Lavamatta Sadhu Sange, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. That dissociation with devotees and hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is so satisfying that immediately one can become purified simply by that association. Just Lavamatta, the term Lavamatta is a very interesting term. Lavamatta means 1/11 of a second. And we can't even calculate how fast that is. That means that something is instantaneous. Soon as something happens, the results are happening at the same time. So when we hear and chant and serve in the association of the pure devotees, and then immediately we can become purified from all material desires, and and then qualify ourselves to enter into the kingdom of God. Devotional service is so nice that even a devotee doesn't even want to go back home. They are simply satisfied by serving and hearing about the glories of the Lord. They lose all desires, even for elevation to the spiritual world. They simply are happy in executing devotional service because they are associating with Krishna through his name, through his form, through his pastimes, through his devotees, through the various activities that make up devotional service. Devotional service is like an unlimited joyous festival that continues to enwrap the conditioned soul in unlimited happiness until it reaches the state of perfection, where in that state of perfection, one is directly associating with Krishna through these activities of devotional service. And they could not even think of separation from Krishna, as it says here. The attraction was so intense that such personalities who have had that association are simply swimming in an unlimited ocean of spiritual happiness. Whereas if you compare it with the material world, it is, in order to get a little bit of satisfaction, one has to struggle so hard. And even though that struggle is in there, there's no guarantee. And generally, even if one somehow establishes some type of material stability in life, the stability is thrown into the air by the force of time. So, therefore, we are fortunate. Srila Prabhupada has written so many books, has spoken on so many spiritual topics, has given thousands of hours worth of time and energy just to give us the process of pure devotional service and the hearing the glories of the Lord. So we have to take time. Sometimes devotees, they do the activities of devotional service, but they don't take sufficient time to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. But this is required as a feature of one's happiness in devotional service. This is the process of Krishna consciousness. And spiritual life can only go up, material life can only go down. We are seeing, I've been around for 75 years. So I saw the material energy back in the years of 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, and onward. And I can see as time goes on, material energy in a general sense has become more and more difficult for the living entities to find satisfaction. As material life goes on, there are more and more ways by which people are suffering. There are more and more ways by which people are implicated in situations in the material world that come simply by being in the material world. When I was a kid, going to school, there was practically nobody in my class whose parents were divorced. Nowadays, you find that you can't even ask people who was your mother or father because it becomes an embarrassing situation. We find that a large amount of people are no longer situated in the original spouse and sometimes go from 2 and 3. When I was going to school also, you wouldn't find any loose girls in the school. There was 1 or 2 in the whole school, and everybody knew about that. But generally, it wasn't It wasn't like all pervading as it is now. Now we don't want to even mention how society is organized, where licentiousness and sense gratification have become so rampant that it's become a disease. And because of that, there are broken homes, there are abortions, there are so many calamities on the material energy. So in my sojourn in this material world, I have observed how the material energy has become more and more mean-spirited in breaking the living entity's existence, causing more and more suffering. And that's just the way material life it is. It only goes down. Okay, so, but Krishna's there, so take time for Krishna. Sometimes devotees say, I'm so busy, I don't have time for spiritual activities, but that means I don't have time for the most important thing in life. Therefore, we should regulate and organize our day in such a way that we have sufficient time to hear and chant the glories of the Lord, especially in association with other devotees. Srila Prabhupada has established the morning program as the foundation for each and every devotee in their day's activity. We're getting up, preparing oneself, going to Mangalarti, Tulsi Puja, chanting the holy names, or worshiping the spiritual master, hearing the glories of the Lord from the revealed scriptures, and taking very nice foods offered to the Lord in devotion, and performing many activities that are free from the struggle of material existence. So someone will say, well, I don't live in the temple. Well, the home is also known as the temple. If we establish the worship of the deity in our home, the home becomes a mandir. It's no longer a place to fulfill one's responsibilities with family. It becomes a place of worship where the Lord becomes the center object of the home, and therefore the home is no longer a home. It's a temple or a place of worship where we can also perform these same activities that are done in the temple with our friends, with our family members, with our immediate associates. So if we are serious about devotional service and we really want that nectar, there has to be a sufficient time throughout the day, as much as possible, to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. And that will give satisfaction to the heart, to the mind, and free one from all of the anxieties that come with the struggle to live in this material world and find some permanency here in a place that is temporary. Okay, thank you very much. These are some points we can think about. And the subject is quite extensive, but that's pretty much the essence. Mhm.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. A lot of nice points you mentioned. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments, you can please go ahead. Sorry, my voice is not good. You can please unmute yourself and ask questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
You can gargle with some salt water. That
Yes.
will help. Have you tried that?
Just since yesterday evening it started, Guru Maharaj, I didn't do. I'll do now, Guru Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. Sore throats are really easy to get rid of.
Yes, Guru.
And there's so many remedies that can be applied. So search out a few of them.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. It's very cold here. Suddenly temperatures are dropped and it's very cold out here. So,
Yeah, it's the material world is one day it's so-called nice, and the next day it's unnice. It's the way it is.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Time
Sir.
it's in the winter time we're paying the heating bills. In the summertime we're turning on the fans. Nothing is ever right. Radha Bhakti, you have a question.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's so nice to hear your class live again. Thank you very much for this class. Guru Maharaj, I wanted to ask you, I've heard the concept of sense gratification in the performance of devotional service. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Well, the senses are used. You can't stop the senses. The senses, the mind, the intelligence, and the body is all used in the service of the Lord. But the terminology is used as satisfaction and not gratification. It becomes a form of gratification, but gratification seems to be something that is coming and going, where satisfaction is something that is continuous. So one becomes satisfied, the senses become satisfied. Like chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the mind becomes uplifted, clear, free from anxiety. One starts to think about the Lord and the devotees of the Lord. One takes Krishna prasadam and feels happiness and satisfaction in the varieties of the nice foodstuffs that have been offered to Krishna, and now offered and sacrificed for the upliftment of the devotee. So, yeah, and so I think the word is satisfaction rather than gratification. And that's a terminology that was spoken by His Divine Grace when he was asked a similar question. Yes, the senses are satisfied in devotional service. There are spiritual senses. There are material senses cover our spiritual senses. But when devotional service is performed, the spiritual energy cuts through the layers of materialism and awakens our spiritual mind, our spiritual intelligence, our spiritual senses. So that is real, that is reality, as opposed to something that is ephemeral and superfluous to the living entity's existence. And the same with suffering also. Suffering in the material world is simply superfluous to the living entity's existence. It doesn't exist.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I was thinking of sometimes I've heard that, sometimes people can use devotional service as an excuse for a way to gratify their senses. But I suppose with what you're saying, it's purificatory anyway, and it will lead to satisfaction.
Well, there is another point related to that statement you made, and that is one should not use Krishna as one's sense gratificatory agent, but one should try to satisfy Krishna's senses. And then because Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uttamam, that we are connected to Krishna in devotional service, because he is Rishikesh, the master of the senses, our senses automatically become satisfied in devotional service. But there is a concept, Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses that. There are people who make Krishna one of the features of their sense gratification. They may have many things in life to do, and Krishna, coming to Krishna is one of them. So they want to enjoy Krishna rather than to serve Krishna. So no one can enjoy Krishna. It's an illusory endeavor, but people do that they want to try to enjoy the Lord. So Prabhupada would say, don't try to enjoy the Lord. Don't try to enjoy the spiritual master. Try to serve, and then you will enjoy.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Scarlett?
Scarlett Mataji. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, please accept but always all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you, Guru Maharaj, and all glories to all devotees here. Thank you for a wonderful class. There is two about the senses and so on. I have read in Bhagavad Gita 10:22, where Lord Krishna says he is the mind. He is our mind, and what I get about that is like whatever I try to learn to do to please him is the way that he wants it, and there is nothing that I have any control over. You understand what I mean? Is it?
No,
Is
that's not true. You do have a control over. You have a choice. Krishna doesn't interfere with your independence. So you can serve him, or you can choose not to serve him. That's there. That's why there are majority of living entities in the material world choose not to serve the Lord. That's their choice. But Krishna is always trying and making arrangements for the both the conditioned souls and the devotees to come closer to him in devotional service. And so in that sense, he's working to bring us closer. So there is a energy that's affecting both the conditioned souls in the material world and the devotees that is forcing them to become more connected with Krishna, more devoted. And that's Krishna's mercy. That's Krishna's mercy. So even though we have independence, still we're being encouraged by the Lord to come closer to him. For the materialists who have rejected the Lord, he sends suffering, and hopefully that suffering is a means to wake up. When you receive suffering, automatically, just like when you get a pain in some part of the body, obviously that pain is good because it's an indication something is wrong. So pain in that sense is a message that something needs to change. So in the same way, suffering comes upon the living entity as a means to alert them that what you're doing is not good, it's wrong, it's harmful. So that's Krishna's way of helping the conditioned souls to come back to him by alerting them through the suffering that they receive. For the devotees, he's working in different ways to encourage them in different ways, not causing them pain, but causing them to become more attentive to their desire to become Krishna conscious. So he does that in different ways. He reminds us, he encourages us, he even frustrates some of our attempts to enjoy, just to remind us where we should be. He's very merciful.
But then when I read, when I continue read in chapter 10, in verse 39 says, I am the seeding. And that's what I understand. It's like, for me, it feels like, I'm not saying that it's true. I just want to ask you if it's right, I think. That when Krishna knows it's the time for me to, or for anyone to come in the full consciousness, he is the one who's putting the seed in the mind of us to come to that consciousness. I don't know if I say it right, but
yeah, but you have to understand the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna is using the material energy to show that he's the best in all categories. Yeah, of the Of things immovable, I am the Himalayas. Of warriors, I am Skanda. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Of something, he is the mind. So he's saying that he's the best in all categories. So it's a way to connect the material energy with Krishna by seeing the best in these categories of the material energy is the feature of Krishna. And that's a way to become Krishna conscious. But at the end of the chapter, he says, but what is the use of all this detailed knowledge? With a simple fraction of my splendor, I parade and support this entire creation. So these are just indications for those who want to see Krishna through the material energy, or ways to see Krishna through the material energy. He's the best in every category. So it's more analogous, but at the same time, he is the Mula. Mula means root. You can't take Krishna out of anything because everything is coming either directly from him or indirectly through his energy, the material energy. Krishna is there in both features of himself. Some direct and some less direct. In this 10th chapter, he is less direct.
I will wait for my next answer. Thank you.
Okay, Sri Devi.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the class today where you point out how material life compares with spiritual life and the gulf of difference between the two. I would like a little more clarity on why people are not attracted to spirituality. Here it is clearly said their attraction for material enjoyment will be slackened, their desire for the Lord will increase, but they actually want to run away from these things, saying, oh, no, we don't want to go over there. They keep telling us how this material world is such a bad place and so on and all, all negative stuff. So we are not going there. So how to understand this contradiction that what is actually good for us, we don't want that.
Well, Maya, or the external energy, has two features. One is called throwing and one is called covering. In the covered aspect of the energy, the living entity cannot understand its best interest, even if it's given sufficient amount of information, because they're covered by this illusionary energy. So, therefore, unless one becomes fortunate, and what is that fortune? They come in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord at the right time in life. In other words, just like Srila Prabhupada was asked, why did you come at the same time? Why didn't you come earlier? Why did you come when you came? Why didn't you come earlier? Prabhupada said, you weren't ready. So Prabhupada came at the time when everybody was more ready to hear. And therefore his movement was like putting a match to dry wood. It immediately ignited and the movement spread fast because the social climate, the political climate of the world was ripe for this type of message. Where at other times, like now, maybe it's not as ripe. And what will happen is that what we're seeing now, the ripeness is again returning in the form of material calamities. Material energy is again causing people dissatisfaction with their material life. But unless they are fortunate, they have to come in contact with some aspect of spiritual life, usually a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, right now, book distribution is going on quite successfully, better than ever before. Guess what? You want to hear something? I found this out today. It's amazing. One of the top places in the world for the most books being distributed is in the Ukraine. Although the war in the Ukraine is raging and there's, bombs and shelling and fighting all around, devotees are still doing Sankirtan there. And the books are going out like crazy to people in general, because they can see there's nothing left of material life and people are grabbing for spiritual life as the alternative. So yeah, this is one of the ways that Krishna shows mercy to the conditioned souls, but putting them in a difficult situation. But generally, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, 4 types of people usually come to me: those who are materially distressed, those who are looking for material remuneration, some kind of wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are seeking knowledge of the absolute truth. So material life is so intoxicating that napanyapi napasyati, which means that even though people are suffering, they can't give it up. You can't give it up because they have this hope that things will get better. Or somehow they've surrounded themselves with the illusion that everything is okay. So Maya is very strong. Don't underestimate the power of the external energy. And one of Maya's potency is to make you forget your best interest in life.
So the only way that people can be awakened in this age of Kali is the holy name, chanting of the holy name.
Well, if they come in contact with the devotee of the Lord at the right time in life, things may click at that time. As we mentioned, wood can be wet, wood can be dry. If wood is wet and they come in contact with a great soul, they may not recognize it, but when the wood is dry, it ignites immediately. So those persons are fortunate. They have come at the time when they were most receptive. And we mentioned the 4 types of people. Nishringa Leela had a follow-up question on your question. I think it needs to be read from the chat. And Srimati, she's not so vocal at this point. Maybe somebody can read that chat question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maybe I can.
Okay.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'll try to read it. In connection to Sridevi Mataji's question, is it possible that influence is due to the age of Kali? Because everyone wants to enjoy and people generally are not interested in spirituality, and distraction is at every step. For example, if I go for online shopping just to buy some necessities, there's so much offers, marketing, etc. And then new desires appear in my mind. How to protect oneself?
Well, yeah, this is the nature of the developed Western civilization, is that the opportunities for sense gratification come falling out of the sky. They're all around. And there's so many unlimited ways that one can, just like there was a statistic where in 1850, the year 1850, it was understood that 95% of the items that were available to the general population were considered to be in the category of necessities. In other words, what was available 95% of the way were things you needed, and 5% were considered to be luxuries. Now, with 170 years later, the percentage has reversed, where 95% of the things available are luxuries or extras, so things are not required, and the basic things have taken a very small percentage. So that is capitalism, that is Western civilization, produce more things that people don't need in order to generate economic success. Companies are becoming billionaires, just like this one company, what is it called? Amazon. It's tripled its profits in the last couple of years, making it's worth billions and billions of dollars. And the pharmaceutical industries are unbelievable amounts of wealth is coming. Why? Because they're always creating more and more things by which people are fooled by. That's the whole process of advertising. Advertising means to convince you to get something you don't need. You don't need it, but I have to figure out a way by which you want it. And it's called advertising. I have a computer, but I need the latest model. I have a car, but I need a better one. I have a home, but I want something bigger. I have even that takes the form of relationships. People are just going through relationships as fast as they go through material things also. So this is the feature of Kali, of this Western society in this present age. Produce, 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 exploit and rape the earth, and create things that people don't need. There's one man, he became a millionaire simply by making a package that which can keep pizza hot. So he came up with this idea of how to keep pizza from getting cold. When you order your pizza from Pizza Hut, it has to get to you. So he invented this insulated bag that the pizza stays hot, and he became a millionaire. So there's so many things on the market that somehow you can live without, but we somehow or other are still thinking that material life is not good enough. It should be better. Therefore, the latest things I need to have. When I joined the Brahmachari ashram, we had one dhoti, and that's it. They would take a towel and cut it into 4 pieces and give 4 different people a piece of that towel and say, that's your towel. When I started in Krishna consciousness, we had nothing. We didn't even have proper shoes. We had boots with holes in them. I'm not saying it was the best, but somehow we were able to continue on because we had devotional service. Because we had something better, even though from the material point of view, things didn't look very, well, we say, normal. What to speak about, extraordinarily good, Material desire is never satisfied. And that's the point. The more you go in that direction, the more you open up this unlimited mindset of getting more, enjoying more, doing more, trying different things. Because it's also a feature of material life, because material life is boring. And therefore, that's a statistic that showed that most people in material life are bored. So keep going from one thing to another to somehow or other convince themselves that there is some happiness here.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. These words really soothe the heart. So thank you. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
don't go shopping. You never know what's going to happen. That's why we're encouraging devotees to get involved with simple living, farm communities, self-sufficiency, as a means to practice devotional service unencumbered with all of the unnatural activities of the material world. A more simple lifestyle is conducive to spiritual life. Do we have any more questions?
I saw Scarlett Mataji raised her hand. Mataji, you want to ask the question?
I can ask my question. How do one can there was someone I talked to and I asked about everything. I talked about everything, but then this person says that when I did try once to be spiritual and to believe the God and everything. As soon as I did it, everything goes bad, and even my head goes bad, and I tried still stay with it, but it didn't happen. How to explain to this person that this was maybe a test, or I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to this person.
We're talking about Krishna consciousness or just some kind of spiritual movement?
Spiritual movement. We take it as a spiritual movement.
Anything. Well, you know, it's also mentioned in the scriptures that it's very rare that a person comes to devotional service. Many times people who look for spiritual moments wind up getting cheaters and different kinds of processes that apparently look good from the outside, but don't give satisfaction. When they start to get into it. So, yeah, that's considered to be unfortunate. Prabhupada uses the example, if you're living in the family and your mother is not good, then you're abused and you don't get what you need in life. Maybe you become unhappy. So a mother is supposed to be one that is giving you everything you need, including the happiness that you need in life. But if you wind up with a mother that's not like that, but she's in the role of a mother, then you're being cheated. So in the same way, there are many cheaters out there in the name of spiritual life. When they come to Krishna consciousness, they chant the holy name, we give them some prasadam, we develop some friendliness, gradually they will feel happy. It takes some time. Some people gravitate towards Krishna consciousness or spiritual life very quickly. Others, it's much slower. That's due to the individual. Anyone else?
I think there are no more questions, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, I think we also, passed the time period.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll continue on with our daily program every day with this particular chapter. So thank you very much. Take sufficient time to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. But when it says that what is nectar in the beginning turns to be poison in the end, and what is poison in the beginning turns to nectar in the end. So maybe the attraction to hear and chant the glories of the Lord is not there, but just take the time and explore that area and keep doing it. And after some time, the sweetness will arise automatically.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru
Hare
Maharaj. Hare
Krishna.
Guru Maharaj.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.